We'll be going live to YouTube in 30 seconds. And we are live.
Ask you to rise as you're able for the reading of the invocation. Thank you. As we come together today, we recognize the great responsibilities laid upon us. Our council will always strive to understand the needs of the people we serve and to use power wisely and well. Our purpose is to establish and maintain a city of prosperity and righteousness where freedom prevails and where justice rules. Let us also not forget those who served our community and who are no longer with us, so that we can continue to do the work we must in their memory. Please be seated. So good evening, delegates and visitors. It's good to have you with us. This is the most people we've ever had in this building before, so it's a beautiful sight from where we're sitting. So, and also want to welcome the viewers who are looking in on the program tonight. Mr. Deputy Clerk, has the roll call been taken?
Through the chair, roll call has been taken.
Thank you very much. Are there any declarations that the members of the committee have of declaration of pecuniary interest for items appearing on the agenda? I see no hands up on the screen or in the room. Separation of items for consideration. There's one item that's automatically separated, that is 6.1.3, as there is an amendment. Are there any other separations? Councillor McCreary.
Mr. Chair, thank you. 6.1.4 concerning the police station task force.
Okay, thank you. Any others? Thank you very much. So at Councillor McCreary, I understand you have the motion to approve all items for consideration, consent, not separated for discussion purposes.
Correct, Mr. Chair. Moved by me, seconded by Councillor Martin.
Let's take the vote, please.
Just wait for Councillor Wall.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. And
Through the chair, all items not separated for discussion carries unanimously on a recorded vote of 11-0. Members of the committee voting in favor are as follows: Councillors Sokoli, Vanderstel, Utley, Sless, McCurry, Marn, Carpenter, and Toski, Van Toborg, Wall, and Mayor Davis. For the viewing public, the following items were approved. Item 6.1.1, joint use agreement with the Brant Helderman Norfolk Catholic District School Board, and item 6.1.2, Brantford Immigration Partnership Annual Update, as well as the minutes from the last committee of the whole meeting.
thank you, Mr. Deputy Clerk. We don't need to vote on that. Okay, thank you. So with that, we have 4 delegations this evening. And so to the members of the committee, there are 4 delegations on tonight's agenda, and I believe they all speak to the same item, which is 7.2 Willowbridge Community Hub. So in keeping with the City of Brantford Procedural Bylaw, Section 1562, please ensure all comments when you come up to speak are directly related to the matter before the committee. So with that, I'm going to ask Leslie Jostling and Paul Sapuzny. I hope I pronounced that correctly. And to come forward, you will have 10 minutes to make your presentation, inclusive of questions for the committee. So when you're ready.
Just say next slide. Just communicate to us on the slide statement.
Okay, when do you want the slides? You want the slides up right now? Okay, okay.
Yeah.
I'll see it up on the screen.
Microphone noise for them.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, good evening, Council. I'm Leslie Josling. I'm from Willowbridge Community. And I'm here this evening with the privilege of representing 10 health and social service agencies that are committed to co-locating in a community hub in downtown Brantford. They're here this evening with us to show their support for exploring the feasibility of having the community hub on the eastern portion of the parkade and its adjacent property. We believe that a hub there will make Brantford a better place. It'll offer a facility that is welcoming and inclusive, and it will improve service coordination and access. Our partners, they share an urgent and critical need for new space. The current space that we're in does not meet our needs. It is outdated, it is cramped, it has high lease and overhead costs. It simply isn't good enough. If we design a building that collectively meets our needs, it will allow us to achieve significant cost efficiencies and find smarter, better ways to deliver the best possible value for every dollar. Over the last 3 years, we did a deep dive into the community's needs. We spoke to numerous participants and our community, diverse communities, and we talked to them about their experience of our services and of our space. We learned from them that we could co-design a space that would make them feel more welcome and supported and include them better. They told us in those conversations that they need greater integration and coordination of services. They also told us that they need our offices to be in the city center and closer to public transit. They told us that our services and our buildings could benefit from being more inclusive and welcoming. Our partnership envisions a Brantford where no one is left behind. A Brantford and a service system where people can get the support they need in their moment of need, in a facility that says, "You matter greatly to us." Our hub will have bookable meeting rooms, work share stations, and conference spaces. It will include a community kitchen, a bike share, a bike repair station. There will be a coffee shop, art, music, meditation, and quiet rooms. There will be also outdoor spaces, a play area, and a rooftop garden. We believe our hub would be well suited to the parkade. We ask tonight that you join us in support for our vision of this hub. A hub that will make Brantford a better place to grow, connect, and thrive. Thank you. Paul, over to you. This is Paul from the Benton Group. He's one of the numerous consultants and experts that's kind of come alongside us on this journey, and it's expertise like yours that's going to ensure that this project is a success. So all yours.
If you could please forward to the first slide of the site plan, please. Through you, Mr. Chairman, it is an honor for the Benton Group plus VG Architects to be here this evening presenting to council. I also represent our partner, project partner, Two Row Architects, which is also a local firm. which has a great deal of interest in this project. I'm not sure if the image looks like it's sideways, actually, but I think you have a computer version of it as well. So further to what Leslie has indicated in terms of the dreams and aspirations of the organization, we've been looking for a site that enables us to extend all of those intentions into the downtown and use the location as support and armature for all of the activities and synergies that it represents. This site is the east side of the parkade, which is a brownfield site. It has a remnant piece of land that's flat around it, and it has the parkade, which has now been up for quite a few decades. It's at the corner of ICOM and Clarence Street, and that is actually, although it hasn't been known as that, it is a very prominent corner for that level of the city. I think an important corner that is probably underutilized at the moment. It has perfect connections to organizations in the downtown that represent great synergy with this organization. It plugs into the YMCA Laurier building. It plugs into the library building. It plugs into the future cultural hub as that comes to fruition. It plugs into Market Square, which I think is as being a community member, I think is a wonderful asset for this community. It actually also remediates and brings new life to Colburn Street through the injection of 400 people into this part of the community. And that has spin-off opportunities for restaurants, for commercial activities in the downtown. It has the synergy of the existing parking garage, which is perhaps underutilized. It has also the opportunity for it to be within a precinct of City Hall and all of these community components. Next image, please. The building itself is planned as a 171,000 square foot facility. We'll be bringing 400 staff, professionals into the downtown, which are all working on making the community better and creating a higher level of wellness within our citizenry. The building is a two-level building in that it has the capability of plugging into the Colburn level as well as that lower level and creating this kind of bridge between the two levels of the city and bringing another dimension to the lower level of the city. Our intention is to make this an example of sustainability, not only as a building and as a structure, but also in terms of the economic reuse of a leftover site and a leftover part of the community, which can now become a very prominent civic corner with green space associated with it. Our plan is to make it a very functional, inclusive building. My partner, Brian Porter at Two Row Architects, will work with us to create a high Indigenous characteristics within the building and to inspire the design. And we will also bring a higher level of safety to this part of the community and the parking garage simply by our occupation of this part of the site. Next image, please. I think the location is perfect, Mr. Chairman. I think that this could bring a very strong added brand to our community of community wellness and a civic responsibility for these partners to be able to represent themselves. The project itself speaks to partnership and the partnership and synergies between the city of Brantford and this organization. Next image, please. I think it also creates a very prominent new civic square for activities and for enjoyment of this part of the community. And it also represents access that is available through public transit, pedestrian transportation, bicycle transportation, and we can make the entire site safer and also barrier-free accessible. Next image, please. We would like to create a progressive image.
Paul, you're at 1 minute to go.
I'm wrapping up. Thank you. We'd like to create a progressive image that is in line with what you've done very well at the YMCA. And final slide, please. Our hope is that this will, and one more slide, please. Our hope is that this will bring further economic development to the downtown. It's an $80 million investment, which will bring jobs. And it is the reuse of a brownfield site. And I think it creates a wonderful armature of civic activities and civic opportunities in the downtown. Thank you very much.
Thank you both very much. We've just got 6 seconds to go. So one very quick one, please, Councillor.
Thank you so much for being here. How important is it to this project for you to secure a site?
Secure site. It's immensely important. And it has, Brantford has so little inventory. We've been looking steadily for 2 years and haven't found anything suitable.
Can you
it's
move
a game
forward?
changer.
Thank you, Councillor. I'm going to cut it off there. Sorry, there'll be more, 3 more opportunities. Okay. Thank you both very much. And I really appreciate your presentation and the work you've put into it. So with that, our next delegate is Lisa Franklin. Lisa, will you come down, please? And yeah, you can go to this side if you want. Yeah. Yeah, that's good. And you got the microphone. Okay. Whenever you're ready, Lisa, I'll start the clock.
Okay, thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Lisa Franklin. I am a single mother of 2, a 22-year-old daughter and a 20-year-old son. My daughter, April, was born with a very rare degenerative genetic disorder, which is accompanied by a global developmental disability, sensitivity and anxiety disorders, and often severe behavioral challenges. We started noticing things weren't right when she was just a few months old, but it would take 8 years to pin down a diagnosis, which was vague at best and did not provide any potential treatment options. We could not cure her, so life became about managing her disease. While I was determined to take care of her on my own, life had different plans for us. Reality can be very brutal, and I quickly learned that the needs of my child were more than I could handle by myself. It was at that point I began to reach out to our community agencies, and we have continued to be involved with them ever since. Over the course of the last 20 years, we've accessed many of the mental health supports in town and the surrounding areas. Woodview, Brantwood, St. Leonard's, the Brantford Police, Brantford General Hospital, Community Living, and Willowbridge Community Services are just a few of the many that have supported us, some for a short period of time, some for many years. As you may know, maneuvering through the healthcare system can be very difficult. Searching for resources, programming, and funding is a challenging and daunting job, and often like playing hide and seek. Sometimes you're not even sure what sort of help you're looking for. All you know is that you need help. I have learned many things about myself as a person during this time. My skin has gotten thicker, my voice has gotten louder, and my patience has gotten a lot thinner. Most importantly, though, I've learned that it honestly does take a village to raise a child, to support a young adult, and to help an adult thrive. Taking care of my daughter has now become my full-time job. I have been unable to work since before the pandemic hit. There's a tremendous amount of stress, anxiety, and depression that comes with knocking on multiple doors that often don't get answered, or worse, when the door is opened only to reveal a dead end. Every time we knock on a new door, we retell our story, repeating our struggles over and over again like a broken record. Every time makes them feel less and less meaningful. This role as a caregiver seems to be my destiny and often feels like my identity. And this is why I'm also a client of many of these agencies. I first heard about the community hub whilst participating in a focus group for Willowbridge, facilitated by People Minded Business. I had been asked, along with others, to share my experiences as a consumer of multiple supports within the community. What started out as survey questions soon became a passion project that I am proud to have been a part of for over a year or so. The goal: how do we make things better, more efficient, more inclusive, more accessible for the community? But more importantly, how do we make things feel better for those seeking support? In all my years of using support services, I had never been asked these questions. And I cannot express to you how empowering it has been to finally be a part of this conversation. To be involved in the collaborative effort, to be a partner, to help facilitate a better healing experience for my daughter, myself, and everyone in the community has given me hope, something that has been in short supply for far too long. During these discussions, we began to hear more and more about the hub. a place with multiple services under one roof, a community space with programs, flex areas, gardens, and art. A place that is welcoming and inviting for all, not just those already receiving service, but for those whom are looking, often without even knowing what they need. There's a huge need for comfort in these spaces. At this very moment, my daughter and I have a team of well over a dozen people that we deal with on a regular basis in order to keep us afloat. This is our village within our community. This hub will be a safe house for my family. It will be a place with a single point of access for the multiple services and resources we desperately need, eliminating the need to repeat our story again and again. It will make meetings and programming less stressful for us because it will be a place we are familiar and comfortable with. Our time there will not just be spent discussing problems and challenges, but also spent making connections and forming bonds with others. A place to not just do the often very difficult work, but also experience new ways to play, be curious, and feel a sense of belonging. With so many opportunities to collaborate, we as consumers can be part of creating our own care plans, to share ideas, strategies, and successes. We all need help, sometimes just a little, sometimes a lot. Regardless of where we are in our struggles, every single person in this community deserves a place to grow, learn, and thrive. If the pandemic has taught us anything, it's that accessible mental health services are more important now than they have ever been. The need for connection and belonging are absolutely necessary for us to thrive. This hub will connect us, not just physically, but emotionally as well. And what a wonderful opportunity for our community to inspire a change of perspective towards healing, collaborating and creatively approaching healing as a whole, as opposed to just the bits and pieces, utilizing all that our village has to offer. I would strongly urge the city to consider supporting this motion to explore the proposed build site for the community hub. Thank you for listening to my story.
Thank you. Lisa, we have one councillor would like to ask a question.
Sure.
Please, Councillor Van Tilborg.
Thank you, Lisa. That's quite the journey you've described. If you could clarify how you do it now, because you mentioned 12 different organizations, people that you are interacting with constantly, how you do the logistically, and what difference would this hub and the location, because I want to know about the location too, how that would benefit you, because you've seen the presentation, you've seen where it's going. So if you could just answer those, that would be fantastic.
Sure. The 12 people that we deal with right now, they're not necessarily from 12 different agencies, but over the years, we have dealt with many more than 12. Like I said, it is a full-time job. It is something that, I require multiple assistance with. As far as the space, I only live a few blocks away. So for me, it would be amazing. I think the downtown core is key. We know that there is, there's a lot of people downtown that could use help. There's a lot of people in the whole community that could use help. But I think that the accessibility, right in that downtown core just makes sense. It's easy for people to get there with transit.
And it certainly makes sense for you.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I'm very much on board with it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other questions? I see none. Lisa, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Really appreciate your presentation. And next, we have Elisa Foster. Hi, Elisa. You need to go on. You need to get on this side. Yeah, please. Yeah. It's nice and clean for you. And whenever you're ready, let me know, and we'll start the clock.
I'm ready.
Great.
When you become a parent to a child with a disability, you are faced with more questions than answers. Will my child be accepted? Will they be supported? Will they be successful? Will there even be the right services available to support them? Honestly, these questions are just the tip of the iceberg of all the questions and comments and thoughts that run through our minds. Good evening, Council. Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Lisa Foster. My husband and I have two children, Andy, age 14, and Emily, age 12. We moved to Brant County on Andy's second birthday. And most recently, we've lived in West Brant for the last 9 years. Shortly after moving to Brant County, Andy was diagnosed with autism and ADHD. Andy's nonverbal, and you might have seen us around town with his trusty national service dog, Trapper. Moving to Brantford has been one of the best things that we ever did for our family. Andy, as well as ourselves, has been embraced by this community. As a family, we joke that for a kid who can't talk, he's got to be one of the most social kids around. Honestly, it's rare that we can actually go out and about in the community without finding one of Andy's friends. Elementary school was a safe haven for us. Andy and Trapper were treated like rock stars. The school community kept Andy and Trapper at the center of everything. As our kids with disabilities grow older, their needs and supports that are required to make them successful change. Unfortunately, so does their isolation. Currently, our community services, they're siloed and they're separated from each other. They're divided across the community, and they're not always easy to find or to get to, especially if transportation is a barrier. As our kids continue to grow, they become more and more separated from the rest of the community. The one central gathering spot in the middle of their community that school offered them, it's no longer available. About a month ago, on a Monday afternoon after school, our doorbell rang. At the door were 2 grade 9 boys that had gone to school with Andy from grade 1. When I answered the door, the request was simple. We're wondering if we can visit Andy. We don't get to see him anymore at school, and we miss him. Imagine how my heart melted and having to remind myself not to tear up in front of these 2 teenage boys, fear that they'll never return. But I threw the door open quickly. These friends came in and had a reunion with Andy that lasted about 45 minutes, and more plans were made for the next one. In my role as an advocate for Andy, as well as so many others in our community, I'm constantly thinking, how can I help our community to become more inclusive and accessible for their future? And the answer is simple. It's connection. Connection is the key for us as an entire community to grow and support each other. One of the things that I learned when the boys knocked on our door was that for years, I have been so grateful for their friendship and their support of Andy. But that's not the full answer. I realized they're grateful for Andy's friendship to them. Their friendship is a two-way street. When I think about the proposed hub, this is what I envision: a place for all community members to gather, relationships that are a two-way street of support and learning from each other, and a removal of barriers between community members. I will advocate for Andy for as long as I'm able to, but I'm also aware I can't do it alone or forever. The idea that as a Brantford community, we can build a central hub for all of the services like Willowbridge, Woodview, Brant Community Healthcare, Community Living, Grand River Community Health Center, Canadian Mental Health, St. Leonard's, The Bridge, Hope, and Friends for Kindness under one roof, it's a game changer. The hub will be a beacon of innovation and the change that's needed to support our community. Resources are limited. What better way to change our future than to invite so many experts under one roof to work together and to learn from each other? As a parent, this gives me great comfort in Andy's services and supports that he needs for his future. I'd like to close with a story that I reflect on when I'm needing guidance on how to parent Andy. My mom was a teacher, and for years she would share stories about her students and the families that came with them to her school.
There was a family that had a child that was in a wheelchair. His mom would bring him to school every day and hand him off to the staff, and into the school he'd go for his day. Once he reached grade 4, his mom would bring him to school, but she'd stop on the edge of the playground. The students, his peers, would rush to surround him and she would let go. And his peers brought him into the school every day after that so he could get the education and the support that he needed. This is my vision for the hub. It's our community's way that as peers to other members in need, meeting them at the edge of the playground and guiding them all into the building. We all need that support and the resources together. I don't know about you, but I want that vision to be a reality for our incredible community. So I implore with you, councillors, Honorable Mayor, vote in favor of the hub tonight. Vote in favor of creating a community that includes all of our members right at the center of it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lisa. Are there any questions? I see no hands up. Thank you so much. And then we have our last delegation is Nikki Strazer. I hope I said that right, Nikki. Close enough? Okay. Let me know when you're ready and we'll start the clock. Ready? Okay, fire away.
Honorable Mayor, councilors, thank you so much for letting us participate in this really important conversation. My name is Nikki Straza. I am a long-time resident of Brantford, a volunteer of Brantford, an advocate of Brantford, and a strong believer in our great city. I'm also the parent of 2 now adults who have gone through several services in mental health services here in Brantford. When my eldest, Tate, was going through high school, she was struggling with a lot of mental health challenges, depression and anxiety, social anxiety, and self-harm and suicide ideation. We went to the hospital. We went to St. Leonard's. We ended up in McMaster and Hamilton, who then referred us to Woodview. And through Woodview and St. Leonard's, Tate was able to get support that helped her through. And after 2 years of support, came through and on the other side in a much, much better space. But during that time, we had to figure out how to get her from the North End to St. Leonard's, to the hospital, to various places. There were times when work conflicted with my life and with her schedule, and it cost her money or me money to get a cab because there was no bus to the North End, accessible without a long walk. And the transit made Tate very, anxious. But walking distance is downtown for us. And it's one of those things that the hub and even Harmony Square right now has Woodview downtown. And it's so, so helpful for our young adults, especially with BCI and PJ, so close proximity to our downtown core. And the journey that we went through as a family was really, really challenging. And one of the challenges that I had as a parent was that I didn't know where to go. I didn't know where to ask for help. I had to go to, Google and the yellow pages, and I had to call Contact Brant and drive to Contact Brant and do an intake. And then I had to go somewhere else to get more services. And then there was wait lists, and it was a real challenge. And so many families that I have worked with have a really hard time knowing where to go. A hub would change that because it becomes a beacon in the city for anyone who needs help. And this becomes so, so powerful because it's accessible. It's well-rounded. It's no more silos, but it's a conglomerate of streamlined services that really can work together. They can share resources, share funding, share and make that dollar go faster and farther. And I have worked with St. Leonard's and BGH and Woodview and watched how they go over and above for my kids. Imagine if we could save these organizations some money in lease, in overhead, where they had access to shared resources, kitchens where my take could cook and relieve some stress instead of, well, she had a pretty good kitchen at Woodview. I mean, it was all right, but it wasn't a garden and it wasn't an inclusive space to the same degree that the hub is going to be with commercial kitchen and real opportunity. My daughter is a chef now and she lives in Ottawa. And she will tell you that Brantford is known for its great mental health services. She went to Ottawa, our province and our nation's capital, and she said, Mom, mental health supports in Ottawa suck. I wish I was back in Brantford when it came to getting the mental health supports that I need. When I first heard about the hub, I told Tate about it. She said, Mom, that's amazing. Imagine how many kids would be able to walk to the downtown core to get the help they need. They won't have to travel. They won't even have to take the bus if they live in the downtown core. And it's accessible from everywhere in the city. She said, Mom, imagine how much money that would have saved us. Imagine how much time. Imagine how much help. When we can save these incredible organizations thousands, maybe millions of dollars because they're sharing and collaborating and streamlining their services, how many more Brantfordians can we help? And so I want to encourage you, Honorable Mayor and councillors, please, for the sake of our children's youth and our city and the city, our children, our adults, please make this happen because our city becomes a stronger city when we work together as a family. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nikki. We do have one question for you from Councillor Wall. Councillor Wall, please.
Hi, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you for so passionately sharing your story with this council. I ask you this question not because I'm questioning you, but I just need you to help me reinforce it, okay?
Yeah.
This project is enormous and there is going to have to be an unimaginable amount of community support and fundraising done. Do you believe in your heart of hearts that the people you work with and the people you associate with have the ability to be able to raise those funds to work together to do this?
Yes, 100%. They're already working on it. I'm putting my own dollars in because I care about it. I'm donating to these organizations myself. I will help raise money. For crying out loud, let's get this done.
This is going to happen.
Yes,
This
absolutely.
is going to happen.
100%.
100%. Thank you.
Thank you.
So thank you very much. Oh, there she goes. You just stood me up. Okay, thank you. That's okay. No, thank you all very much for your presentations. So with that, we'll move on to items for consideration. And if there are no objections from members of the committee, I'd like to bring 7.2 Willowbridge Community Hub will be pulled up before placing all other items on the floor. If I could just get some nods of approval. I don't see any grimaces or anything like that. So that is wonderful. So with that, Councillor Wall, please move your resolution and name your seconder, please.
Excellent. Moved by myself, seconded by Mayor Kevin Davis. Willowbridge Community Hub. Whereas the city of Brantford considers the physical and mental health of our community members a top priority. And whereas recently numerous member agencies and associations, including but not limited to the Grand River Community Health Center, Brant Community Healthcare System Foundation, Community Living Brant, Willowbridge Community Services, Woodview Mental Health and Autism Services, Canadian Mental Health Association, Brant, Haldeman and Norfolk, St. Leonard's Community Services, the Bridge Brant, Friends for Kindness, Helping Ourselves Through Peer Support and Employment, HOPE, have come together to propose to create a mental health and wellness hub. And whereas the ultimate goal is to create an approximately 171,000 square foot hub where individuals and families can access a broad range of services seamlessly while also enjoying greater opportunities for mental health, social recreation, relationship building, and belonging. Also, but not limited to, services for children and adults with developmental disabilities and/or autism and their families. Mental health addictions, relationship and equity services for children, youth, and adults. Food security programs, housing support services for youth and adults, employment support for youth and adults, including adults with developmental disabilities and more. Whereas approximately $87 million will need to be raised to build such a facility, and that securing a site to build is of top priority to such efforts. And whereas the City of Brantford is open to considering creative ideas and use of city-owned space to support community agencies and associations, especially when the need and demand is of such importance. Whereas the eastern portion of the downtown Brantford Parkade and surrounding areas have been identified as a potential build location. And whereas investigating the potential use of this space for this purpose could help bring much needed mental health and wellness hub to the City of Brantford that could employ 500 plus employees and help 27,000 plus people per year. Now, therefore, be it resolved that A, the City of Brantford staff cooperate with the lead agency of the above named member organizations and agencies to support them to investigate and report back the feasibility of using the above named space for this purpose. And B, that staff investigate the feasibility of developers working in collaboration with the lead agency of the above named organizations and agencies to develop possible synergies with other downtown developments. And C, that a copy of this resolution is sent to the Mayor's Office of the County of Brant, the Six Nations Elected Council in Mississaugas of the Credit, and the offices of the MP and MPP for Brantford Brant to assist in raising awareness of this endeavor and the need and desire to create a mental health and wellness hub in the City of Brantford. If I can speak to this. Sorry if I'm getting choked up. This is just really important. Sorry. Is this possible? Absolutely it is. Is this going to be easy? Absolutely not. But anything is possible. And if there's anybody who can do this, it's you. It's the families of the people who need this help the most. A journey of 1,000 miles starts with one step. And you guys have hit the ground running. But you're going to hit a brick wall if you don't have a location to build. And if I can help facilitate that, if this council can help facilitate that by investigating whether or not we can provide that space, absolutely. I will do whatever it takes for the people that I serve and for the tens of thousands of people who could use this service to make this possible. We need this so bad. Mental health is still so stigmatized and people are so afraid to talk. And everybody knows somebody who needs these services. Many of us need these services. Whatever I can do to help, I urge this council to support looking into this and working together to make this happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Antosky and then Mayor Davis.
Thank you, Chair Utley. Thank you all for coming. This is how you build a village. It takes a lot of courage for people to come out and sit and talk, and then for people to take time out of their nights to come and sit and support. And this shows us that it is really, really important. I'm familiar with many of your agencies. I've worked with some of you. There's something that I learned along the way that wasn't mentioned tonight. And this, I want to add a little bit to this in terms of why this is so important to have so many of the services in one location. When my daughter was younger, she was suffering with some mental illness issues, and some of these services helped her. What I learned very quickly as a mother is at 16 years old, the providers don't have to tell me anything anymore. And so they were communicating with my daughter only, who was struggling with things. And at 16, you can take on the world. You can do it all by yourself, right? And I couldn't help. And if my daughter decided she didn't want my help or didn't need my help, she didn't have to tell me anything. But if she had had one building that she could go to on her own without mom having to drive her somewhere, then that really would have helped her, because now she had to rely on me. and she didn't want to rely on me during this time. I really struggled with this whole, she's 16 and I can't know about her health, right? So, and I think that there's probably a lot of people that aren't aware of that. So this is so important. And in fact, to the point, after my daughter had moved out years later, we found a letter that was a recommendation from our family physician for her to seek psychiatric help at that time. The letter's in an envelope in a closet. Thank goodness she came out on the other side and she's fine and she's got a great life and she takes life by the horns. And I think a lot of that was because of some of the things that she learned with some of these services. I think that she could have avoided a lot of this stress that she went through by having one place to go. And if she had to wander down the halls to figure out where she needed to go, somebody would have been able to tell her, this is who you can go see. So thank you all for banding together. Thank you all for bringing this important issue out in the light. And, you know, even if you're not touched by this in your life, this makes good business sense, right? So we can look at this from both angles. Thank you so much, everybody, and thank you for indulging me, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. Mayor Davis.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. You're feeling deja vu. I think I saw many of you last night. Last night was the kickoff to Mental Health Awareness Week in Harmony Square. And there were a number of different booths. Many of the people in the audience were there. And I think I've talked to many of you. And so I think it's entirely appropriate that as we kick off Mental Health Awareness Week, we're talking about a project like this that can better serve the needs of those who have mental health issues and members of their family. And I heard that last night from many of the participants, many of whom were clients of the various service providers. I think I heard again and again how difficult it was for them to be able to access the services and how disjointed it was and how there were many different points of contact, making it extremely difficult to be able to access the services many families need. And sometimes, unfortunately, that difficulty means some people give up. And that's a shame because many of the services are there. And so this certainly would facilitate sort of the one-stop shopping that those residents of our fine city that are dealing with these issues. And, you know, when you're dealing with mental health issues, and I think we've all had our experiences, personal and with family, through our lives, it's really hard to be able to access it when you're internally dealing with those kinds of issues. So whatever we can do to facilitate that, I think is a great thing. Then there is, so that's my hat of mental health awareness and being aware of the issue and how important it is to address it. Now I'm going to put my other hat on, which is the downtown supporter. And I mean, no question, this type of a project, formidable, as challenging as it is, and clearly we all know there's a lot of challenges with it, not in terms of location, but of course in terms of the financing and the planning. But I know the group, I talked to the group several weeks ago, excuse me, Paul and Leslie. And actually, I got to tell you, at the beginning, I was kind of a skeptic. And by the end of it, they had me so completely convinced, I kind of wondered, why was I so skeptical to begin with? But I'd say this, I mean, we know it's an area of the downtown that clearly could use a boost, could use more activity. And it's kind of ironic because I think my name's on the plaque of the garage when it was opened in 1987 when I was on council. And that was to be that was going to save our downtown. That was the Eaton Market Square, and that was the parking for the downtown shopping mall. Didn't work out, but it really gladdens my heart to think that this type of a project can take that area of the city that, frankly, it was disappointing to us. Some of us caused some of us to lose faith in our downtown. But a project like this, as challenging as it is, if we can get it done, you know, what it will do to the downtown, that area of the downtown, I think will be truly revolutionary and holds great, great promise. So I'm very happy to support this, for city staff to work with the various groups to see what can be done, where it can be done. And I saw a concept that had a pretty snazzy farmer's market as well. Great potential. So I'm very happy to support it. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Next, Councillor Van Torborg, followed by Councillor Sikoli, and then Councillor McCreary. Thank you.
I look out here at the chamber and you say, what's going to make things successful? And when we talk about coordinating services into a hub, well, what's the value of coordination? Well, I look at a room and I look at a chamber that is full here for the first time. That's your value. That's your strength. And that's what's going to make this happen. I had a very long conversation with Leslie the other week. And the things that are being tackled are very complex. Sometimes they can be frustrating, but I think as we were talking, she said, I can hear the smile on your voice. And she is absolutely right. There's the frustrations out there, I guess, that I've been feeling as a counselor on gaps in our services. And then as we're talking about things, and I got to tell you, before I was a city councilor and I ran the Steelworker Action Center and Employment Center some long time ago, many of your services were invaluable to me and the community that I represented. Nobody knew what they would need when they would need it. And you needed to be there, and you were there for us. One of the things that was a challenge for me was who does what and where is everybody. I do have some firsthand knowledge of that. I know many of you. And I'm thinking look, there are things that you're all pitching, you've all got your things, but can I just come across one of my little favorites that we don't have in Brantford, but I know it exists in Kitchener? The bicycles, the bicycle co-op, okay? That I know, but that's the little thing, that's just for me. And I look at that bicycle co-op and I think about other things that were done in other communities, how they would using a little cafe restaurant in order to raise money and pay off the funds. And I mean, you find a way to do it, but what we couldn't find and it was in the back of my head for a long time when I was the steelworker was how to do what you guys are doing right now. And if you've been taking phone calls like Councillor Wall and myself have over this last term, we both know how much we need this, as you know how much you need this, as the people that have spoke realize how much they need us and how much it has to be coordinated in one spot. Let alone the dollars and cents that this will make for the savings to your organizations. There's a big win-win out there. The big step, the big hurdle is, as said, as Councillor Wall has presented, the space. We'll get over that hurdle, then you'll be able to chase down those funds. You can't do it without a space. So we're going to do everything we can to help you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Sikoli.
Thank you. What a life-changing concept this hub would be. I'm going to try to do this without choking up, but I'm intimately familiar with a lot of the struggles that we heard from a lot of the mothers this evening. And when you have a child that needs help and not knowing where to start, that could be the scariest moment in a mother's life. So it's just an amazing example of so many important associations coming together, finding efficiencies, and more importantly, being able to redistribute those efficiencies back to the people who really, really need it. So not only that, but we have this underutilized area of the downtown core. And this is just a great opportunity to, I'm brain farting, I'm sorry. Reinvigorate that area. I'm all thrown off. You throw kids in front of me and mental health and it's all sideways. But we have this great idea to bring this economic boost to downtown. And I am so proud to support this with all of you tonight. So thank you so much for coming out.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor McCreary.
Well, brain farting is pretty common in here, but very seldom is it admitted to. So it really is lovely to see all you folks in here tonight. You may be aware that we're undertaking the same kind of thing with respect to our museum community right now. We're looking at consolidating those operations on one site to create that symbiosis, that life, that interaction, right, that you're speaking about tonight. So it's, I can see this as being valid not just for the folks who receive the services, but also for the organizations in terms of efficiency, in terms of sharing of resources, in terms of not having to worry about keep the bloody lights on and concentrate on your delivery of your core services instead of worrying about bricks and mortar and parking and all that stuff. It's going to make life simpler for you. The mayor spoke about downtown, and I must, I'm very pleased to hear his commitment to the downtown. Some of you may have realized, and it'll come up a little bit later in the night tonight, that there is some current thought being given to relocating the police station downtown from Elgin Street, and we'll be receiving more information on that at a later date and making a decision on that as well. But you look at the investment we've made downtown in the last, well, since I've been on council, since Greg's been on council, and the municipality has invested a lot of blood, sweat, tears, taxpayers' dollars, and hope for the future down there. And this is another piece to the puzzle to make a community down there that has some life, that gets, people involved in things that are going on out on the street in the community. I'm really hopeful that perhaps in a couple of years, we can all be there for the groundbreaking, and we can look back on tonight and say, we were there when we took that first step. And God bless Joshua Wall for bringing this to fruition. And I pray that this will be his legacy.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Vanderstel.
Thank you, Chair Etling. You're doing a splendid job tonight. This is truly about growing pains. It's as Councillor McCreary referred to. It's not just growing pains is one department in police, but it's been fire. It's Lansdowne Children's Center. It is schools. It is, and you're seeing the growth, and you're seeing the growth in our intensity in our urban population centers. You're seeing the need growing in those areas as well. It's crucial. Going forward, it's crucial for Brantford's future, for the service future. As a service and administrative hub, it's about time. It makes sense, right? Making it accessible for everybody in a user-friendly environment where most of the population is going to center anyway. That makes sense. As a community support provider, I've worked with many of your agencies as well, working to provide those services for people who need them. But the timing is often so crucial and so important. Sometimes when somebody's ready for help, there's many obstacles in the way of getting that help. But one-stop shopping works because everything is there. As a matter of fact, I'll take my professional hat off and put my personal hat off. A hub that you're dreaming about and a hub that you've been planning for 2 years is the very kind of hub, the full service hub, that saved my life. So it was struggles all my childhood, most of my adult life, it was struggles, a lot of hardship. But people with the vision and the dream and the hope that you are selling tonight, you make Brantford that community. It was encouraging to see how positive, despite your circumstances that you lived through. It's encouraging to see how much you love Brantford, how much you love the people of Brantford and the community in Brantford, because I think almost everybody mentioned that. And I couldn't agree more. I love this city and I love the people in this city. And this is, you have 100% of my support. You have my support in any way that I can provide it, because I'm living proof that when you take care of the people who somehow didn't matter, you're building community leaders. And I thank you for it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Carpenter.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is, of course, fantastic idea, and it's one that we've tossed around about having community hubs throughout our city for social services. There's one thing, you look at all these groups that come before us today. I sit on the Brantford, Norfolk health teams. And one of the things that you discover quickly is that Brantford agencies have been working together for some time. Look at all these groups have actually been working together for some time. That doesn't actually happen in every community, by the way. We sort of take it for granted that it does, but it doesn't. But it happens here, and it's been happening here for a long time. So this just makes such good sense that we put them all together under one roof in a hub model where they can prosper and grow. So I just wanted to say that mental health services is one of the top priorities of the Brant Norfolk hub. Health team. So we're going to have our own health team area that covers Norfolk, Brantford, Brant. It makes good sense to say that we're going to have a hub here for services, and it covers Brantford and Brant and beyond as well. And that's what these services will be doing. So, and I'm happy to see that we're not annihilating the market. Market will be built into this project. So this is a win for everybody all the way around the community, the organizations themselves, and the terrific work that they're doing, and the services that we so much need that are in place. If we can make them operate more efficient, we can provide more services to more people. And we are in need of doing that too, everywhere around the province, but especially throughout areas that are growing like we are. So to the groups that brought this forward and for the vision of those groups, and we're working so hard, I congratulate you for your stick-to-it of this, for your belief in yourselves and in this community and what can happen. This is a wonderful idea. It'll get my endorsement and full support wherever and whenever I can, as Councilor Vanderstelk has said it previously so well. So thank you, and you'll have 100% my support. Thank you for what you're doing and bringing this forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Sless.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I too would like to say thank you and congratulations to the folks that have done the legwork really to put this together and get it to the point where we're seeing the presentation this evening. To get a project, and it's scary when you look at $87 million. It doesn't matter what you're building. That's an awful lot of money. And in order to be successful, I think you need buy-in from the entire community. And a project like this, I think would certainly get that, simply because it would be my guess that every person in this community has either been touched by or knows a family member or a neighbor or a friend or a coworker who's been touched by mental health issues. And I think you have to have been there to realize how bad things can get for somebody that are struggling and looking for a place to land safely and to get help that they need. And I think that's what this entails. And I think this is what brings this whole thing together and allows a project of this magnitude. And again, I'll say that this is a very, very large project. But to be successful, it would need buy-in from the entire community. And I think that's exactly what it would get, given the rampant, I would say, the rampant spread of mental health issues. There's just been so much going on in the world with COVID, with everything else, with kids trying to get through school. It's become an awful tough road to hoe for a lot of people. And I think this is the type of institution that could bring it all together and make things a lot simpler. You've got enough problems dealing with your problem without trying to find where the cure of the problem or where the help for the problem can come from. So I think this is excellent. I certainly have no problem supporting this, and I wish the group well. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Sless. Before we go to second time speakers, I just want to say a few words to my good friend Flora, who we've known for many, known each other for many years. And our family has used the services of Woodview, and we're so thankful for that. That little boy is now a 21-year-old man, and I know he's always have those issues. But he's the love of my life as a grandson, and I'm sure I'm not alone with the many other grandsons and granddaughters out there that grandparents are proud of the work that you, as well as your parents. So I've been to your facility, and if any other councillors have not been to Woodview Contact Brand, I'd highly recommend that you do. You can see the conditions that they're working in. They've even got offices in storage spaces, I think. So is that right? Yeah. Unfortunately, so they do wonderful work in not the most ideal conditions and facilities. The parking is very tight, and I think this new facility, which I anticipate will be approved to go forward for the planning stage and costing out, et cetera, et cetera. There's a lot of work ahead of us. And the other thing you can do, I mean, you've made a big impact tonight by the number of people that are here tonight in full view. I mean, you're well organized, you're committed. If I'm just dropping a little hint here, that you may want to consider having fundraisers for maybe pieces of equipment or a room that the community may want to furnish. They're just some ideas, but get yourself organized, work with others in the community, and members of this, certainly your ward councillors. I think we'd all be interested in playing some kind of a part. And now we've got our wonderful staff that certainly do everything they can to help you as well. But I just want to personally thank you from the bottom of my heart. So thanks so much. Thank you. Any other second-time speakers? I see none. Mr. Deputy Clerk, would you? Oh, there is. I'm sorry. Go for it.
I promise I'm going to try to maintain my composure, but I just want to say thank you so much for being here today, because like many others have said, it is because of you that this is possible. That's why you're here. I take great honor in what Councilor McCreary said, but this is far from my legacy. This is your legacy. This is our legacy. I know that everybody here is playing their part, but I would be remiss if I didn't give a shout out to Leslie. I was at the MP breakfast, and she went out of her way to grab my attention and say, I need to talk to you, Councillor Wall. I've got something you'd be interested in. And she chased me down, and she called, and she texted, and she emailed. And the next thing I know, I found myself in a meeting, and she said, this is our idea. And I said, I'm sorry, that's not going to work. And it wasn't because I didn't believe in this dream, but the location that they wanted to use just wasn't going to fly. And I said, but what's your plan B? And she said, we don't just have a plan B, we've got a plan B, C, D, E, F, G. This is happening. And plan B was incredible. And I said, we've got to talk to the mayor. We've got to talk to Brian Hutchings, who, by the way, is fantastic. And we are blessed to have him. And literally within days, we were sitting down with the mayor, we were sitting down with Mr. Hutchings, and all the councillors had gotten consulted in their own way. And now we're here today with this motion. But let me tell you something. In my lowest low, in my darkest day when I was a kid, St. Leonard saved my life. And I don't mince words when I tell you that if it wasn't for St. Leonard's, I wouldn't be here today. And it is so one of my greatest honors to be able to move this motion to support organizations like St. Leonard's in this, because without them, I wouldn't be here to do it. So that's all I want to say is thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. I don't see a quick call a vote.
Good call.
No applause, please.
Item 7.2, Willowbridge Community Hub carries unanimously on a recorded vote. Members of the committee voting in favor are as follows. Councillors Vanderstel, Sless, Marn, Toski, Wall, Van Tilburg, Carpenter, McCreary, Utley, Sokoli, and Mayor Davis.
Thank you very much, Deputy Clerk. You can go like that, pretend, okay? That's great, wonderful. Wave your hands, do a little jig or something. So thank you all very much. Now, if you've got nothing else to do and you're bored, You can stay for the rest of the committee. We've only got about 3 hours to go. No? Oh, well. Oh, you don't know what you're going to be missing. Thanks, everyone. Thank you. Okay, well, just we'll just hang on a couple of minutes. Councillors, Mayor, thank you all very much for the support. Councillors Sless and Carpenter who are looking in, thank you all. This is a great project. It's going to do major things for our community. And I think one of the things we need to do, Mr. Hutchings, is when we plan the Woodbridge, the Woodview and Contact Brand and other areas like services like that, let's make sure they get identified to be located in areas where there's a bus service. And for that very reason, I think it's great to move Woodview and Contact Brand. Anyway, thank you very much. Back to business. The committee will now consider the items that were separated for discussion purposes. And Councillor Martin, please read the motion to place all separated items for consideration and consent not previously voted on the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move seconded by Councillor McCurry that all items for consideration and consent, 6.1 and 6.2, separated for discussion purposes, be approved.
Thank you very much, Councillor. We'll move on to 6.1.3, Airport Board Committee Report 04-11-22. And Councillor Martin, I understand you have an amendment. Can you move your amendment and name your seconder, please?
Yes, thank you. I move seconded by Mayor Davis. Amendment that clause B of item 6.1.3 be amended by replacing the word completed with initiated, and that the following be added as clause C, that this process be included and funded as part of the preparation of the economic development and tourism strategy. And just speaking briefly to the amendment, this was something that the staff had asked for because there was some problems with the original amendment. There wasn't a funding source identified. So this addresses that. And this is basically just a housekeeping item. I hope everybody can support the amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Any Councillor McCurry?
I would just like to single out Councillor Martin for his attention to the airport these many years. And it's good to see that we're moving forward with a vision for that. That's going to be good for this community.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other comments, questions? None? Okay, please call the vote.
The amendment to item 6.1.3 carries unanimously on recorded votes. Members of the committee voting in favor are as follows: Councillors Vanderstel, Martin, Nantosky, Wall, Van Tilburg, Carpenter, McCurry, Utley, Sokoli, and Mayor Davis.
Thank you very much, Deputy Clerk. Let's move next to 6.1.4. Councillor McCurry.
Mr. Chairman.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry, Councillor Carpenter. I skipped two things there. One was your hand up.
And I was wanted to speak to the motion as amended, and we'll vote on that after everyone has spoken to that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm happy to support this resolution. I've always supported the value in our airport, and having a vision and a long-term plan is something that we do need and we're lacking. We used to have one, but it's sort of fallen off the table over the years. I'm glad that Councillor Martin is on the airport board, as he is an aviator. He flies, and he's got a strong interest in aviation. That's important for our community. And I've always wondered, why we haven't been buying land around the airport. We know clearly that the Hamilton Airport has expanded, and the services that used to provide there are not there anymore. And there's a lot of industries looking for other places to locate. And I talk about airport industries, and it talks about this in the resolution. This is long needed, that we should secure space around that airport, all the way to Highway 24, if I might add, and to make sure we have enough land so that when this airport expands and when Brantford expands, and this whole geographical area of Brantford Brant, grows, as we know it will be, we have to plan for the next 50 years. This airport will be fundamental to this community's survival going forward and economic survival. So the airport is an economic driver for the community, and it always has been, and I've always supported it for that reason, as well as everything else that I've supported for the reasons for the community's value and good being. So I'll support this, and I'm glad to see that we're actually going to have a vision for the airport, a long-term vision, I hope, and a plan that directs staff to purchase that land that's around the airport that we may need as it comes up for sale, so we can secure that airport's long-term future viability. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. So now, Councillor Martin.
Thank you. Yeah, I wanted to speak to the motion as amended as well. We're hopeful that by putting together a plan like this, that we can approach the county. We've approached them in the past, but they've since developed their industrial park along Rest Acres Road, which is so close to the airport. They've got to see the airport as a big advantage for them now with the direction their industrial areas are moving, and the new Ford Center that is being built near their twin pad arenas. So we're hopeful that we can get the county to buy into the aspect that the airport is something that needs to be developed both for the city and for the county. And we're hopeful that we can get them to buy into this plan as well and see things progress at the airport, where things have been very slow to progress up till now. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Mayor Davis.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And through you, yeah, the airport it's a very significant asset that we have. And there has been a lot of change in the aviation industry. There's been a lot of change in the nature of our economy, both locally in this area and in the province. And although the Airport Commission and all those involved have been very diligent in moving forward and having in place current capital plans and capital visions, we are finding there's an increased interest in the airport by a number of different concerns, and most of them aviation related. And it's really caused so myself and others to think, well, how do we respond to some of those inquiries unless we know how the airport really fits? What niche does it fit in the general aviation market? Is it going to continue to be general aviation, which is essentially servicing small planes, pilot schools, the industries that support smaller planes, including smaller corporate planes? Or given the growth of logistics, is it going to be, should we be aspiring to a vision of a logistics center serving the logistics industry? And we have a lot of that developing in our area. Should it be an airport that, say, better serves the corporate jet market so that it's more attractive to industries that require that? Should it be directed to primarily the servicing of airplanes and thus becomes an airplane service center? Should it be something that addresses some other niche in that aviation market? And so when you have these requests that come in, it could be simply, do we buy land? Do we add it to the airport plans? And without that vision, it's hard to know, should we or shouldn't we? So I'm hoping that with this visioning exercise, we'll better understand the role of our airport in the general aviation world, how it might be better positioned to address the needs in aviation needs, both provincially and nationally, and what we might be able to do so that the airport better serves our local economy and our local community. And so I think it's actually kind of exciting. I don't think it's been done for, I think it's been quite a while since we've taken this kind of look at our airport. And it's such a large asset, so important, and represents so much investment over decades, beginning with the Canadian government during World War II. So I think it's certainly it's a worthwhile endeavor to determine what is the vision for our airport and how does it best fit into the modern world. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Van der Stel and then Councillor Wall.
Thank you, Chair. I couldn't agree more with Councillor Martin on the need for that visioning. It's important that we go through that process. I had the rare fortune of watching Hamilton grow and have the audacity to call itself Hamilton International Airport, while there was a vending machine and I think a single entry door to the main building there. But look what happened now. I'm not saying that's going to happen in Brantford or has the capacity to happen in Brantford. But what I am saying, when you come up with a vision and a plan for the future and the future use of the airport that is synonymous with the growth that's happening in Brantford on a regular basis, including the people that will require those services, those types of services in Brantford. I support it 100%, Councilor Martin. And it begs the next question, of course, when you develop that vision, that dream, that goal for where we can go as the airport, you still have to get to the airport if you're not in a plane. So that's why I think it's important to make sure we take into consideration the regional transportation master plan that we're working towards as well. So thank you for this initiative, Councilor Martin. Well done.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Wall.
Thanks, Councillor Utley. You are doing a great job. Okay. So ever since I was a little kid, I had a fascination with the Brantford Airport. And the reason I wanted to contribute to this conversation was because I wanted to say thank you. I know that our board is a volunteer board up at the airport. Is that right? Yep. And without them, we wouldn't have this incredible asset that we have in our community. And I think the growth of that asset, investing in that asset, improving that asset is going to be incredible for this community. It's going to be incredible for the county. It's going to be incredible for this region. We need to, and I'll wholeheartedly support that. And then, yeah, kudos to Councilor Martin, because he cares a lot about that airport and he dedicates a lot of his time to that, along with the volunteers that sit on that board. So thanks for that, Councilor Martin. And thanks to the people who sit on that board. That's what I wanted to say. So thanks.
Thank you, Councillor. I'd also like to add my thanks to Councillor Martin. I served on the airport board for I think 3 or 4 years. And then I was very pleased that an expert, a pilot, was there to replace me and offer so much more to the committee than I could, or the board than I could. So with that, I don't see Councillor Carpenter, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
It's hard to see.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just want to add a couple more points. And, the city has pumped millions and millions of dollars into the airport. It's been self-sufficient operational wise and contributed own capital. But over the years, we pumped millions and millions of dollars into that asset because we recognize it's an important asset to maintain and for the future of our city. So a plan of how we're going to maintain and get there and what the vision looks like is ideal, and I'll support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. If there are no other questions, let's take the vote, please. As amended, right?
Item 6.1.3 as amended carries on recorded vote of 11-0. Members of the committee voting in favor are as follows. Councillors Vanderstelt, Sless, Martin, Antosky, Wall, Van Toolwork, Carpenter, McCreary, Utley, Coley, and Mayor Davis.
Yes, that does help. The next item is separated by Councillor McCreary, Police Station Task Force report.
Mr. Chair, thank you very much. I'll remind members of the committee and folks in the audience at home tonight that the corporation, in conjunction with the Brantford Police Services Board, is embarking upon the design and construction of a new police facility. With the blessing of committee, I've been appointed the chair. Councillor Martin is the vice chair. We're ably supported by the mayor, Councillor Vanderstelt, and Police Services Board Chairman Mark Littell. So we've been underway the past couple of months. We've been looking at a top-down view of this. One of the first things that we intend to embark upon is the settling upon a location which is going to enable us, Police Services Board, to provide effective and efficient policing for the community. We had what was before us tonight was a recommendation that we build on the Elgin Street facility, and that may very well turn out to be the eventual location. But at the prior meeting, the committee did direct staff to provide us with a number of responses in response actually to the report that we were given with a staff recommendation to go to Elgin Street. So we have a committee meeting, I believe, booked for May 30. So with the indulgence of committee here tonight, we'd like to kick this recommendation down the road a month so that we can receive as a committee those further answers to inquiries provided by our staff and by Brantford Police Service staff. And we can come back here a month hence and debate this item then with receipt of that information. As I said, we may very well end up on Elgin Street, but there's an opportunity that we may, what we're looking at is some downtown vicinity locations, some of which are quite unsuitable, a couple of which could be probably adapted to use for a new station. So we'd be looking, Mr. Chair, I'll introduce the deferral when you give the word, and Councillor Martin will be the seconder.
Thank you, Councillor. Any questions? Councillor Carpenter.
Yes, to staff, these recommendations or these investigations that have been asked for by the committee, is there a cost to those?
Good evening, Jennifer Elliott, Director of Engineering Services. Through the chair to you, Councillor Carpenter. Yes, there is high-level costing within the report.
And how much is that costing?
Through the chair to you, it ranges for all of our alternatives. It ranges anywhere from 39 million to upwards of $64 million.
Oh, no, not the actual cost of building the building, the cost of some of the investigative work that's been required, that we're looking for a deferral to this investigative work comes forward that staff have been asked for. I heard the previous mover raise. I'd like to know what those costs are. Is there a cost to get a price for buildings? Do we have to, are we paying a real estate agent? Are we paying, those costs I'm looking for?
Mm-hmm. Through the chair to you, Councillor Carpenter, there was an additional cost for the consultant to compile this report, this additional report. I will have to get that cost and come back.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other questions? I see none. Would you want to move your deferral, please, Councillor?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Moved by me, seconded by Councillor Martin, that item 614, Police Station Task Force report be deferred for one meeting cycle.
Any discussion on the deferral? I see no hands up. Please call the vote.
Thank you. The deferral of item 6.1.4 carries on a recorded vote of 10-1. Members of the committee voting in favor are as follows: Councillors Vandersteldt, Slesmar, Nantoski, Wall, Van Tilburg, McCreary, Lisa Coley, Mayor Davis. Members opposed, Councillor Carpenter.
Thank you very much. We're into resolutions now, and I asked Mayor Davis if he would take the chair while I introduce my resolution.
Yes, thank you very much. Councillor Ridley, I believe you have a resolution you'd like to introduce.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Moved by myself and seconded by, I hope, my ward mate, Councillor John Sless. There's a nodding of the head. Thank you very much. Whereas trillions of cigarette butts are discarded globally into natural habitat, including streams, rivers, lakes, and oceans. And whereas in February 2022, the United Nations and the World Health Organization announced a partnership to raise awareness about the negative environmental and health impacts of microplastics in cigarette butts, the most discarded waste item worldwide. And whereas other cities and countries have recognized the detrimental impact of this behavior caused and are taking action to clean up discarded cigarette butts and enforce littering regulations. And whereas discarding cigarette butts may seem small, but collectively cause preventable pollution to our natural habitat and wastewater systems. And whereas smokers need to be educated regarding the dangers caused by cigarette butt litter to change this behavior. And whereas discarding cigarette butts has been socially acceptable for many decades, and this acceptance must be reversed. Now, therefore, be it resolved that staff be directed to provide a report to council in Q3 22, including the following. A, recommendations related to proper disposal of cigarette butts on public and private property. B, a comprehensive jurisdictional scan to learn what actions other municipalities are taking to combat the issue. C, identification of responsibilities of business owners to regularly remove cigarette butts outside their premises. D, a bylaw amendment to urge the business community, especially pubs and restaurants, to install cigarette butt receptacles on their premises. E, identification of provincial funding and private cigarette manufacturers grants that are available to fund education programs and butt receptacles. And F, a media plan and associated costs for a local educated campaign with information on how to partner with school boards and post-secondary institutions to extend reach of the institutions to extend reach of the campaign. I would like to say a few words, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, certainly go ahead.
One is that a short while ago, I think it was April 23 on Earth Day, the Rotary Club and others were doing, other volunteers were cleaning up parks and facilities around the community. And it's amazing, this is public property, and there were hundreds, probably thousands of cigarette butts embedded, and people just naturally flick them away. And it's it's something we've all done if we've ever smoked. That was just common practice. Now that has to stop. This morning I went to the bank, and the car next door, my windows were shut in my vehicle, and the person in the car next to me was smoking and just threw their butt out of the window. And it was smoldering, and I got inside my car, and the smell of cigarette smoke was overpowering. That's with the windows closed. I don't know how I got in there, but that didn't please me at all. So I think there's a lot of education to do. This is a generational thing. It may take a generation or two to get to where we need to be, like littering. This is another form of littering, no doubt about that. But there's an environmental impact to our natural habitat as well. So I think one of the things, we need posters, we need signs, we need education programs. We need there's a business opportunity for companies that want to make these little portable cigarette trays you can carry with you, take it home, dispose of it in the garbage, and keep our environment in our city clean, especially outside of pubs where it's most prevalent. But another place was outside the hospital entrance, and a huge number of cigarette butts in a primary health center in our community. So the attitudes have to change. They really do. I'll leave it there. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Intost, you're next.
Thank you, Mayor. I find this topic fascinating, and not in a good way, because I can't understand how in our minds we wouldn't throw the candy wrapper on the ground, but the cigarette butt is okay. And we talk about it maybe being generational, but littering was generational too, and we seemed to have moved forward on that. And so I'm really having a hard time with the behavior around this. And maybe it's really just, I'm not thinking about it. If we ran a campaign and had bylaws sitting in any drive-through in the city, you're going to see them fill up. So maybe there is an enforcement campaign as well. I agree. It would be much better if we just stopped it from happening in the beginning and not have these costs. But I guess it's just being mindful of it. And I think that people have to think of the cigarette butt like a candy wrapper. And if you wouldn't throw your candy wrapper out, please don't do your cigarette butt. And because of the volume and the numbers and how difficult it is to clean up little tiny, big thousands of little tiny pieces of litter, it just continues to exacerbate the problem. So thank you, Councillor Utley, for really being on top of this issue. There's a behavioral project here, I think, and to our community, if you can just give it a second. The other problem is when you buy a car, you have to pay an extra amount of money if you want to get the ashtray package, right? So it's an option. You got to pay money for that. So instead of paying money for it, you're just going to throw it out the window. So anyways, let's really be on top of this. Talk with your friends, your family, and make sure they're thinking about it when they're flicking it. Thank you.
Councillor Wall, you're next.
Thanks, Mayor Davis. You're doing a great job. I know I can't talk across the table, but I do have a question about item E and then F, just identification and provincial funding of private cigarette manufacturer grants that are available to fund education programs and butt receptacles. Hopefully staff or whoever helped Councillor Utley with this motion, is that educational campaigns? And then an F, the media plan with local education. Is that about quitting smoking? Is that the education that's? Okay.
Through the chair, Councillor Wall, my understanding is that's education, exactly what Councillor Antosky was speaking about, just not to discard your butts and put them in the right place and educate the general public.
Not to co-opt the motion, but I'm wondering if maybe it would be friendly if we could include there to be educational materials to provide resources and support for people who want to quit smoking, or to maybe not start smoking in the first place. The only reason I bring it up is because cigarettes and tobacco and nicotine, it's an addiction. And there are many people who just can't give it up for whatever reason. Their brain just won't let them, or their issues may not, cause them to relapse. It's an addiction. I was hoping maybe we might be able to add something like a G, where the city of Brantford, through its media campaign, could provide resources where people could go locally to get information about butting out permanently. Hoping that might be friendly.
Well, so what exact?
I'll give you the exact wording.
Okay, give us the exact wording.
G. That in combination with the media campaign recommended in F, that the city of Brantford, through its social media channels and elsewhere, provide information regarding local resources related to quitting smoking.
Thank you, Councillor Wall. That was very helpful. Is that the friendly amendment?
If I'm allowed to speak, Mr. Chair, as staff, within our jurisdiction, where I come from, this is a health unit matter. Everything you're talking about, education and publicity is done by all health units, whether it be Hamilton or Niagara or wherever else. It's been a little bit beyond the city's jurisdiction. We can do it as asked, but it is usually a health unit matter.
Working in conjunction with the health unit to encourage people to butt out permanently.
So you've added that into the friendly amendment, working in conjunction with the health unit, which I think is appropriate. Councillor Utley is the mover. Nodding your head. Who is your seconder?
Can I ask Brian if that
just a minute. Who is your seconder?
Councillor Sluss.
Councillor Sluss. I see the nodding of the head. We're good. So it's friendly. Did you have anything else to say, Councillor Wall?
Nope. Thus that Councillor Utley is a great man doing great things, and I'm happy to support this motion.
Councillor Carpenter.
Okay, now that we've added something completely different to the resolution, I guess I'm okay with any kind of education. But the resolution is about littering. The resolution is about littering cigarette butts. I noticed that, when I'm in the drive-through to get my coffee in the morning, the car ahead of you just throws that cigarette butt out the window. And it's so easy. It is illegal. Littering is illegal. You can get a fine for it. Maybe if a few people got some fines for doing this, they would realize it's illegal. But more than that, I want to ask the public, when you see someone do this, say something. Say, hey, that's not right. If someone threw garbage on your front lawn, you'd say something. So when they throw garbage in your community, like throwing their butts on the ground, we should say something, because it's a disgusting thing to do. If you smoke, that's your right. But when you butt out bring your ashtray with you in your car. You don't have to have one built into the car. There's lots of portable ones you can buy. I'm sure lots of people have them. Put that cigarette butt in that ashtray in your own car. Don't put it on our streets. Don't put it in our community, because that's disgusting and it's not legal, and you shouldn't be doing it in the first place. And the education in the schools, before when we talked about polluting, we used to pollute our rivers in a great deal. The education went through the school system about what is pollution. And those kids came home to the parent. When I was a child, we had that education. I came home to my parents said, we can't do this. We can't use phosphates. And this is what's happening to our rivers and lakes. Kids will come home and say to their parents, we can't pollute, we can't litter. And those that see it will speak up too. So it is educational and it's generational. The education has to be generational and ongoing. So, this is about littering, and, it wouldn't hurt, if someone, a police officer, for example, were to write a ticket to someone that littered when they see that cigarette butt out, I think would change that person's mind, and they would talk to their friends about how they got a ticket, and maybe others would stop doing it too. But to the people in the community, throwing cigarette butts out is disgusting, and it's not legal, and you should be an adult about things and not do that. You don't have to. So I want to thank Councillor Utley and Councillor Slash for bringing this forward. It's got nothing to do with quitting smoking, but it is about littering. So thank you.
Guess I'll make the, I'd like to say something. Oh, sorry. Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I disagree with Councillor Carpenter. If we can encourage people to quit smoking, then they'll quit littering with cigarette butts. The two don't go together. And to everybody who smokes, who doesn't throw away their cigarette butts, thank you. For those of you that do, please, it's time to change your habits and change your routine and start disposing your cigarette butts properly. And if you really want to help your health, then quit smoking altogether, and then you won't have cigarette butts to throw away. You won't have to worry about having an ashtray you carry with you or finding one when you finish your cigarette, because you won't be finishing cigarettes anymore. You'll be done with them and your health will be better for it. So good luck to anybody who wants to quit smoking.
Councillor McCreary.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. And let me reiterate the fact that you're doing wonderful filling in for Councillor Utley tonight.
Well, it's from a terrible angle here too, actually.
Yes, thank you. I just want to comment on something that a speaker prior to Councillor Martin said. And I don't think it's responsible to be telling people in this community to get in one another's face about littering. I think, we've all experienced the kind of anger and angst that's out there in this and other communities. And the last thing we need is for a member of council to be encouraging people to perhaps end up getting punched out over something as trivial as a cigarette coming out a window. It's just, don't do it, folks. It's not worth it. You don't know who you're talking to. You don't know what kind of an awful day those folks have had and how angry they are. Don't do it. I do want to say, though, that there are kind of two aspects to this. First of all, somebody that flicks a cigarette out the window, is it a minor act of rebellion, or is it the fact that they don't know that those things aren't biodegradable? One or the other. But I'll tell you what is pretty evident is when you see somebody taking the ashtray out of their car, a heaping ashtray with 2 packs worth of butts in it and emptying it out in the Walmart parking lot. That is, I don't know, an act of rebellion, an act of defiance, an act of, I'm not going to take it anymore. Who knows what goes on anymore in people's minds in this age of COVID and angst and anger. But Councillor Utley makes a good point. It's got to stop. It's disgusting. And let's smarten up, people, but don't get in anybody's face about it. You don't need to lose teeth over somebody flicking a cigarette.
Well, I would like to take a different attack on this and I would appeal to smokers, and I was a smoker one time, and I understand how it's convenient. But think about those who pick up the litter, right, Councillor Redley? A couple of weekends ago, we were out at Lions Park. First of all, why are you smoking as you're heading out on a nature trail or going to the bike park? I have trouble understanding that. But think about those poor people out there every spring cleaning up all the litter. And there's nothing worse than picking up cigarette butts because your sticks, the litter sticks don't work. You got to bend over and pick them up each individually. And for those that our age challenge, it's a tough litter pickup, I'll tell you. So show some sympathy for the litter picker uppers. And it's a lot harder to pick that up than a can or a piece of paper. So, but of course, in all seriousness, it is just disgusting. Going to a nature park and finding it, the sides littered with cigarette butts. So I can support this easily. Councillor Utley, you want to wrap it up?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I just want to speak to D a little bit about amending to urge business community, especially pubs and restaurants, to install cigarette butt receptacles. One of the things that is unacceptable is when they sweep those butts out into the curb and you have a heavy rain or the winter melt and all those cigarette butts go down the drain. They eventually find their way into our wastewater system plant. And I don't know what it does to our, I can't imagine that it does our system any good by having cigarette butts and as well as other debris going into the wastewater treatment. So it'll be interesting to see what they come up with and to get some, if it's possible to get some kind of estimate of the problems cigarette butts create in our wastewater plant, if that's possible, as the staff. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Deputy Clerk, please take the vote.
Item 7.1 carries unanimously on recorded votes. Members of the committee voting in favor are as follows. Councillors Vanderstelt, Martin and Toski, Wall, Van Tilburg, Carpenter, McCreary, Utley, Coley, and Mayor Davis.
Councillor Utley, I pass the chair back to you.
Thank you very much, Mayor. I appreciate your help. The next item is 7.3 Memorial Drive Speed Study. Councillor McCreary.
Chair, thank you. I'm the mover. Councillor Martin is the seconder. The resolution reads as follows. Whereas the posted rate of speed on Memorial Drive is 40 km/h, and whereas a road diet has been implemented on Memorial, and whereas despite these initiatives, neighbors have expressed concerns regarding high rates of vehicle speed. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the staff be directed to A, conduct traffic calming warrants on Memorial Drive, and B, if warranted, report back to the Vision Zero Road Safety Committee on any traffic calming recommendations. And Mr. Chair, I must say that probably for the last couple of years, the concern we hear most from folks in North Brantford relates to vehicle speed and some pretty poor driving habits by the driving public. Clearly, there's a lot of people out there that should be taking the bus rather than being behind the wheel. You know, and you experience it every day. I don't exactly dawdle along on the road, but boy, a lot of times I see a vehicle coming up behind me and they've got to be doing 75 or 80 and a 50. The newest thing is not to stop for the stop signs. If they're behind you, if I stop at the stop sign, sometimes the vehicle just behind me wants to play train car and just follows me right through. Driving habits here, probably everywhere, are abysmal. We have a limited toolkit to deal with these things. Stop signs are a bit contentious. For every person that wants a stop sign, you've got someone that doesn't. And usually it's people that don't want to drive slowly. Yes. So appreciate your support on this one and the one coming up. It'll go to Councillor Martin's, the committee that Councillor Martin sits on, the Vision Zero Committee, and they do some good work. So thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other questions, comments? I'd just like to add one thing is that no matter what we do, those speeding drivers don't want to change their habits, as long as they don't get caught. So I think at the Vision Zero, perhaps we need to look at other methods of slowing down these, these small minority of dangerous drivers in our community. So if there are no other questions, let's call a vote, please.
Item 7.3 carries unanimously on recorded votes. Members of the committee voting in favor are as follows: Councillors Vanderstel, Sless, Martin, and Toski, Wall, Van Tilburg, Carpenter, McCreary, Lisa Coley, Mayor Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Clerk. Our next item is 7.4, Coachwood Road Speed Study. Councillor McCreary.
Chair Utley, thank you very much. I could say ditto, but I will say that it's moved by me and seconded by Councillor Martin, and that the resolution reads as follows: whereas neighbors have expressed concerns regarding high rates of speed on Coachwood Road, now therefore it be resolved, the staff be directed to A, conduct traffic calming warrants on Coachwood Road, and B, if warranted, report back to the Vision Zero Road Safety Committee on any traffic calming recommendations. And I'd be remiss if I didn't thank staff for helping with the wording on this.
Any questions, comments? None, please call a vote.
Item 7.4 carries unanimously on a recorded vote. Members of the committee voting in favor are as follows: Councillors Vanderstel, Sless, Martin, and Toski, Wall, Van Tilburg, Carpenter, McCreary, Lisa Coley, and Mayor Davis.
Thank you very much, Deputy Clerk. I don't believe there are any notices of motion. Before we depart, I'd just like to thank everybody tonight, the staff, council, the mayor, for all your support. It was a good meeting, very objective and respectful. So I thank you for that. And also like to, on behalf of council, like to thank our viewers for looking in. Our one citizen who doesn't let us down. So thank you very much, Sandra, for joining us. And with that, good night, be safe, and please don't litter.